podcast for women growing slow, faithful, and soul first in the garden and in life. I'm Sanda, and here we explore the sacred, messy work of tending what matters through scripture, story, prayer, and the quiet lessons of the soil. Let's take a breath and begin. Rooted Jesus girls, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6:9. That's our anchor today, because gardening, like faith, are both long-haul callings. Before we step into part 3 of Rooted in Grace, let us pause and remember the journey so far. In part 1, attentive stewardship, we learned to open our eyes. We slowed down to pray and pay attention to what God was already doing. We practiced noticing the details in the soil, the seasons, and our souls. We learned that God is present in the little things, a shift of sunlight, the first sprout, the stillness of morning. Then in part 2, faithful response, we offered our hands. We faced disruption and disappointment and discovered holy flexibility. We hit limits and found grace in asking for help. We discerned what truly mattered to grow, and we counted the cost of cultivation, time, energy, and even heartache. And here's the truth we carried from those sections. Faithfulness doesn't come from striving harder. It comes from staying rooted in grace. Now, in part 3, covenant relationship, we yield our hearts. This isn't about how much we produce. It's about abiding. Not performance, but presence. Not rushing ahead, but faithfully returning. And chapter 8, the long haul, is where covenant becomes real. That first flush of spring is intoxicating, isn't it? Fresh soil, seed packets, sunshine, dreams of baskets overflowing with goodness. But every gardener knows that's not the real test. The true work comes later, when the excitement wears off, when the days are hot, the weeds relentless, and you've watered the same garden bed for weeks with no visible change. That's when hope matures into faith. That's when gardening mirrors covenant, choosing to stay even when the results are slow. I want to talk a little bit about the California garden I had to leave. For 7 years, I poured myself into a tiny backyard garden in California, just over 0.15 acres. I amended soil, built trellises, replanted, replanned. I lived through those rhythms season after season. By the time we moved, it had become a place of abundance, beauty, and sacred growth. And yet, here's the ache. I only got to enjoy the perfect version of that garden for 1 season. 1. But I don't regret those years, because the real harvest wasn't the vegetables and the fruit and the flowers. It was me. The woman I became in those 7 years was the covenant fruit, and I carried her with me into every new space. That's the nature of the long haul. God doesn't just grow gardens. He grows gardeners. Let's talk a little bit about God's timing. We live in a culture that runs on speed, but God's kingdom runs on seasons. Think of Abraham, waiting decades for God's promise of a son in Genesis 21. Think of Israel wandering 40 years in the wilderness. Read Numbers 14. Think of Jesus himself, 30 quiet years before his ministry began. You see, God is never in a hurry, and yet he's never late. In the garden, we learn this too. We can't make peas sprout in frozen soil. You can't force a tomato to ripen before its time. You can plant, you can tend and water, but you cannot rush God's appointed season. Paul tells us, at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we don't give up. This is Galatians 6:9. Not my time, not your time, but God's time. When we align with His timing instead of fighting it, we find peace. And we realize slow is not wasted. Waiting is not failure, it's formation. I used to overwater when I got impatient. I thought, maybe I just need to do a little more. It'll grow faster. But what happens when we interfere too much? Roots rot, plants weaken, growth actually stalls. Soil science tells us that the healthiest roots form slowly, underground, unseen. They need stability, consistency, and stillness, and they need time. And isn't that so true for our souls? Jesus said, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. John 15:5. Remaining, abiding. This means staying long enough for roots to reach down deep. Some of the most important growth in your life may never be visible to others. But that doesn't mean it's not real. It means God is working at the root level. Here's the honest truth. Much of gardening is, well, ordinary. Checking the same plant day after day, watering the same soil, pulling the same weeds. And some days it looks like nothing is changing. But that's where covenant faith takes shape, in the long stretches of faithfulness. Jesus compared the kingdom to a mustard seed, tiny, almost invisible. Read Matthew 13:31-32. Growth begins when no one notices. Paul reminded the Corinthians, it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. 1 Corinthians 4:2. Not fleshy, not spectacular, but faithful. The world may not applaud daily obedience, but heaven does. And over time, the hidden work becomes undeniable fruit. I want to shift gears a little bit and bring in another idea. You see, gardens are meant to be shared. Covenant, which is the topic of our episode today and of chapter 8, covenant relationship, isn't just vertical with God, it's also horizontal with others. The very first garden, Eden, was a place of communion with God and with each other. Read Genesis chapter 2. So our gardens today can echo that calling. Maybe you share tomatoes with your neighbor. Maybe you swap seeds at church. Maybe you plant zinnias by the mailbox just to make strangers smile. When we open our gardens, we open our lives, and that's covenant community. Hebrews 10:24-25 urges us to spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, but encouraging one another. Your garden can be that meeting place, that encouragement, that shared table of grace. Even the smallest garden becomes sacred when it's shared. Like we do in every episode, Sweet Rooted Jesus Girls, let's take a minute to reflect on some practices, some holy practices to ground this teaching about the long haul. You will find these in my book at the end of chapter 8, but I want to go through them here as well for every listener of this podcast. Number 1, plant what you may never eat. Sow legacy. Plant trees, improve soil, invest in what outlives you. Number 2, document the journey. Journals, photos, prayers, reminders that faithfulness leaves roots behind. Number 3, let the setbacks shape you. Pruning is painful, but it's formation, not failure. Number 4, lean into rhythms, morning walks, Sabbath rests, rhythms that root you when storms come. And number 5, trust that slow is sacred. Invisible progress is still progress. In God's timing, it will be breakthrough. These practices echo something that I've been quietly developing for you, my growth framework. That's an acronym, so GROWTH, growth framework. It's the heart of how I teach spiritual formation through the garden. Let's just go through it really quickly, and then I will invite you later on into a more in-depth look at the growth framework. So G stands for get rooted. Start with grace, not guilt. Anchor yourself in God's presence. R, rise. Say yes to the small sprouts of new life He is growing. O is observe. Pay attention to your soil, your season, and your soul. W, work what you've got. Steward what's already there. Don't chase more. Tend the gifts God has placed in your care. T, tend. Show up with love, not perfectionism. Water, weed, nurture with consistency. And finally, H, harvest and heal. Celebrate the fruit, reflect on the lessons, and let God restore what feels lost. So once again, G, get rooted. R, rise. O, observe. W, work what you've got. T, tend. And H, harvest and heal. This is the cycle I return to again and again in my own garden and in my walk with God. It's simple, but it's transformative, and I want to walk through it with you. That's why I am so excited to invite you to something brand new, the free 6-day Prayer Garden Challenge. This will happen in mid-September. We'll journey together through the growth framework. Each day you'll receive a short teaching, a Bible reflection, and a practical step to help you create a sacred space for prayer in your garden. By the end, you'll have your very own prayer garden, a place where faith takes root, peace flourishes, and you can walk with God in the cool of the day. Whether you have a backyard, a patio, or just a few potted plants, this challenge is for you. It's free to join, and I'd love to have you there. You can sign up through the link in the show notes, and I'll send you more information as we get closer to September. Now, let's end this episode with some rooted questions, some things to reflect and journal on in the week ahead. Number 1, where in your life are you being called to persevere even when the results are slow or invisible? Number 2, how has staying rooted physically or spiritually shaped you over time? Number 3, what routines or rhythms keep you grounded when seasons get hard? Number 4, what kind of fruit are you hoping for this season? What might lasting fruit look like instead? And number 5, How do you remind yourself that quiet faithfulness still matters when no one else sees? Let's close this episode in prayer. Lord, you are the faithful gardener. You remind us that covenant is not about speed or success, but about presence, patience, and abiding love. Teach us to trust your timing. Strengthen us when we grow weary. Form deep roots in us that no storm can shake. Help us plant legacies, embrace pruning, lean into holy rhythms, and trust that slow is sacred. May our gardens, soil and soul, bear fruit that lasts to the glory of your name. Amen. Rooted Jesus girls, thank you for joining me today. Remember, you're not behind. You are not too late. You're not lost. You are right where you need to be. And the real garden God is cultivating is you. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this episode encouraged your heart, I'd love it if you'd follow the show and share it with another rooted Jesus girl who's walking her own slow, sacred journey. If you'd like to keep growing in your faith and in your backyard garden, you can grab my book, Rooted in Grace, at rootedingrace.me. It's full of spiritual reflections, garden rhythms, and the gentle invitation to meet God in the middle of real life. And if you're ready for deeper support, I also offer one-on-one coaching. As a pastor's wife of over 25 years and a longtime gardener, I've walked through droughts, overwhelm, and unexpected bloom, both in the soil and in the soul. Whether you need practical help with your raised beds or a heart check-in on your spiritual season, I'd be honored to walk with you. Let me tell you more at rootedingrace.me or through the link in the show notes. And don't forget, there are free printables, garden journals, devotionals, and planning tools waiting for you at my website, rootedingrace.me. These all help you to grow what matters, one seed, one step, one prayer at a time. Until next time, stay rooted and grow with grace.